What's going on, YouTubers? This is episode 29 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. We're just getting set up here right now, and we'll be starting the podcast soon. I have decided to start wearing all of my soccer scarves. You may see some of my collection. I got almost 100. So this is a new one I got from the Sons of Ben soccer scarf club that I'm in. And it's Donkey Kong inspired, the original Donkey Kong. So I'm excited. Came in the mail yesterday, so I'm going to wear it. Christian and Matt are here as well. And you guys ready to go?
Yeah, I don't have my scarf, but
Yeah.
I think I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, maybe next time you can. I'm going to wear a different scarf for every podcast, and I can go almost 2 years doing that, which is kind of scary. All right, cool.
Are you going to color the rainbow?
Maybe I could. I have every red, orange. Do I have orange? Yeah, orange, yellow.
Orangey Biv.
Yeah, that's what I don't know if I have indigo.
That's unfortunate. So
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, so I'm a failure, but that's okay. All right,
What
on
else is new?
to the task at hand. Someone's in a great mood today. All right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 29 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast, brought to you by Fan Futsal. As always, my name is Dave Knittel, said it right this week, and I'm here with my brothers Christian and Matt to discuss stories from around the soccer world. Christian, how are things?
Things are okay, Dave. I just found out that I have a cyst on my body that I'm going to have removed again, which is going to be very unfortunate. But, everything else is good. How about you?
Sorry to hear that. I have cysts, but they're benign and not growing on my body, if that helps in any way. But that's really sorry. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better. You better feel better soon. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dave. I have no cysts since that's the topic of choice this week.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. You got some naps in today?
Yep.
All right. That's always good to hear. All right. Let's pass it off to Christian. You got our trivia question for this week?
I sure do, Dave. This week, our trivia question will be, of all the players who have played in the Barclays Premier League, how many different countries have been represented by those players?
Oh. Okay. All right. And so for the listeners out there, we're going to think it over throughout this episode. And then at the end, we'll circle back. Matt and I will give our guesses, and then Christian will give the answer. So stick with us. Look forward to that one. Real quick, before we get into our topics here, let me first tell you about our sponsor, Fan Futsal. We're all busy people, right? We barely have enough time to read or check all our snaps, Twitter feeds, and Facebook profiles, let alone eat or sleep. With so much of our time already accounted for, who has the time to spend hours on fantasy soccer research? Not me, and I'm assuming a lot of you don't either, which is why Fan Futsal is the perfect game for you. In Fan Futsal, you select 5 clubs, set of 8 to 11 individual players for your weekly fantasy teams. You then use your knowledge, skills, and intuition to arrange those clubs into a formation and positions that emphasize different scoring attributes. Our only fantasy scoring elements are goals scored, goals conceded, and the result of the match, so you only need to follow match scores. If you've never played fantasy soccer before, or if you have played and don't love the experience, Fan Futsal is the game for you. You don't need to worry about lineup rotations or player injuries. You don't need to follow detailed player stats across multiple matches at the same time. Plus, it's really easy and quick to set lineups on Fan Futsal. We have games from MLS throughout the summer, and we'll have Liga MX and European leagues, the big European leagues, when they come back later in the summer. Only takes a few seconds to sign up, and there's no long commitment since our games are weekly. Check out a unique, simple fantasy soccer experience at FanFutsal, FanFutsal.com today. Okay.
I can't wait for you to memorize that one day.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
I'm gonna mix it up soon because I've been doing that same act for a while now. So I'll write a new one, and so the listeners don't get too drained out. Real quick, started off with a little bit of sad news. Very much sad news. So Czech Tiote, the former Newcastle defensive midfielder, he collapsed in China during training yesterday, I believe. It was either yesterday or the day before, and he unfortunately passed away. Just a really, really sad story. His wife was expecting a baby apparently within the next few weeks, and we just wish our condolences to his family. We'll tweet out the greatest goal probably he's ever scored, kind of in remembrance of him. It was that incredible goal in the 4-4 draw between Newcastle and Arsenal, where Newcastle came back from 4 goals down, and the call was amazing too. Christian, Matt, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, this is really, really sad. I actually remember watching him when he was at Newcastle a couple of years ago before they got relegated. And I always wanted him at Liverpool. I thought he had that engine. He had that fight in midfield. He lost discipline every once in a while, but he was a very solid midfielder. And it is sad that we're losing him. And I didn't know his wife was pregnant, so that just makes it all the worse.
Yeah, real sad stuff. Matt, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just think it's sad news, just like you guys said, and he was a great player.
Agreed. So let's try to remember the happy times and the good, the good times from when he was playing. So with that, let's get into our first segment here, and it's going to be an All Champions League topic first segment. So let's start with a discussion just on the match. So for those of you that don't know, Real Madrid won 4-1 after being tied 1-1 at halftime. Christian, what were your general thoughts on the match?
I have watched a lot of Champions League finals. I think that may be the worst I have seen in recent years, and maybe ever. It was so one-sided, and Juventus were absolutely trash on the day. They could not pass the ball in the second half. It was painful to watch. And barring Mandzukic's wonder goal that he scored in the first half, they had very little chances, and it was painful to watch. Yes, Madrid were good, but Juventus just didn't show up at all.
Okay. Matt, what were your general thoughts on the match?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch the entire game live. Unfortunately, I had to ref a couple soccer games, which I was not so happy about. So I did catch the last 20 minutes of the game, and from what I saw and what the announcers were talking about from the entire second half, Real Madrid dominated. I expected that. I didn't think Juventus could keep up with Real Madrid's the way they attack and their depth and ability to attack in pretty much any phase of their team with defense, midfield, and up front. But I didn't get to see what happened in the first half, but it seemed like Juventus played better in the first.
Yeah, so I missed the first 20 minutes. I was watching the Union game, which was a rough match to watch as well. But I certainly did not expect this to happen, at least not a 4-1 result for Real. I thought it would be a tight game. I ultimately thought Juventus would win 2-1. I was very, very wrong. I thought their defense would have been stronger, and the old mantra, defense wins championships. I thought that was going to hold true and was going to stifle the Real attack. That certainly was not the case. I do want to give Juventus some credit. I mean, they came out pretty strong from what I've heard and the highlights that I've seen in the first 20 minutes or so. And, I think I put it on in the 15th minute, and they definitely had chances, and they held their own at halftime. And obviously Mandzukic had that ridiculous goal. But I agree. The second half, just Zidane made the changes that needed to be made at halftime tactically, and just from then on out, it was lights out.
I don't understand the Juventus formation at all. I know they have been playing the 3 at the back for a while. I understand that, but to play a 3, what are they playing? A 3-4-3? I don't think that gives you enough stability in the midfield at all. They had Khedira and Pjanic as their 2 center mids. Mm-hmm. That's not enough. You can't control the game against Kroos, Modric, and Casemiro with 2 center mids.
Well, their angle isn't to control the game. The way that they play is to be incredibly structured defensively, eliminate the space and then counter quickly through Dybala, Higuain, and Mandzukic works as kind of a target winger. It's kind of a weird formation getting into the tactics here. But that's kind of the structure that they play, and they've never kind of been one to really control the game this year in matches against what I'll call superior competition or competition that's at least level with them. In Serie A, they can control it, but for, the Champions League matches, that's kind of their approach has been.
I know, but it was embarrassingly one-sided in the midfield, and I understand that's not where they want to be playing, but they have to solidify defensively, and Allegri, I think, got it wrong in that position on the field. Khedira he's a solid player, but I don't think either of those two midfielders are very much what I would call defensive-minded, and they had, I forget who was out wide, actually, Alexandra and Dani Alves. So they were two, actually, I think, defenders. They're two, a left back and a right back, that they moved more into wing back roles.
Mm-hmm.
But this still, like, losing the midfield against Madrid, who probably have the best midfield or one of the top three absolutely in the world, and arguably two of the top 5 center mids in the world, just seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot. And the fact that they play with 3 strikers, out and out strikers up front, is bizarre to me.
Who? Juventus?
Dybala, Mandzukic, and Higuain are all strikers, all 3 of them.
Yeah, but that's how they've played the entire year.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense. You have to adjust. And Allegri didn't have his tactics correct.
So I agree that they didn't adjust. And Zidane, I heard Modric came out and say that they tactically worked on specific crosses, low crosses, and that was an area of weakness that they identified in Juventus, and they executed that, and that was really awesome from a Juventus standpoint. But getting back to what you were saying with 3 out-and-out strikers, I don't agree. So Higuain was center striker. That's the role he played. Mandzukic was a winger, kind of a target winger, de facto kind of center forward, but on the wing. That's kind of somewhat in vogue for a lot of people to play those kind of tactics. He's big. He can win things in the air. And Dybala was kind of more of a free role creator underneath. I don't think Dybala did very well, but I don't think he's necessarily an out-and-out striker. So that's kind of my perspective. Matt, anything else you want to get in before we move on to the next topic?
No, I mean, I was fascinated by the way Juventus moved with their tactics, how they created space when they had the ball with that formation pretty much all year. And I wouldn't say those tactics are wrong because they were 1 game away from winning the treble. But they were
wrong on the day.
I just think Madrid were the better team. And from what I heard from my friends, the Madrid center backs having Varane back there and Ramos, apparently they just completely shut down Higuain and Dybala. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. So they definitely did a great job. And so let's move on to a topic that Matt texted, and I think Christian and I were a little bit surprised at the text, but Matt, I want to give you an opportunity to make your case. So for those that don't know, Matt sent a text claiming that this Real Madrid team deserved to be considered among the greatest soccer teams ever because they've won 3 of the last 4 Champions Leagues. Matt, floor is yours. Do you want to present your case on why that is?
I think the trophies say itself. No team has ever had this run before in the Champions League success. It's the most sought after trophy every season. It's the elite of Europe, and claiming that trophy 3 out of 4 years is incredible. And who they're doing it against. They've kept Messi out for 3 of the 4 years. When they're playing against him, I think that has something to do with it. When it's so much Messi and Ronaldo dominated this last era, and to think that if one of those two wasn't playing, they would each have like 8 or 9, 10 Ballon d'Ors in their career, which is absurd. Like, I don't know. Like, at this point, I don't know who doesn't believe that they are the top 2 players ever, with how good they've been or how dominant they've been over the stretch.
Okay. All right. So that's a crazy thing to say about the players being the 2 best ever, especially because we didn't live through what Pele and Maradona era or the Cruyff era. They changed the game in a lot of different ways. And so I don't know if we can intelligently speak to that. I think they are definitely definitely both top 8 players ever. You could argue Cristiano one way or another because of he doesn't have innate skills, but he has developed and worked incredibly hard to get to what he's gotten to, whereas a lot of the other players kind of have innate skills. And Messi, I think, is just, otherworldly. It's up there with them. But I don't want to get down that path. So Christian, let's focus more on the Real Madrid path. What are your kind of counterpoints to what Matt brought up?
Well, I'm not going to touch the player debate there. That's for a whole different other conversation. But Matt saying that Real Madrid, he said that team has to be considered the best team ever in his text that he sent us. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, yeah, they won the Champions League, but what else are they winning?
The league.
They have not really done anything else. They won the league one time.
They won it this year.
Okay.
And when Zidane, they would have won the league last year if Zidane
You
was the
can't say
manager.
that. You can't possibly
What do you
say
mean?
that.
They had the most points.
Who cares? Okay, he came in at some point last year, but Barcelona could have still won all of those games they won before too.
What do you
And
mean?
Zidane could have lost one of those. He had the most points. Okay, what does it matter?
Well, he won you win the league when you have the most points.
This year, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Who's
saying when he
saying
took
that
over last
Barcelona
year.
would have had less points and he would have had more? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And so
You can't say that him coming in earlier would have changed anything for what Madrid were doing.
exactly. We can't say definitely woulda, coulda, shoulda. I think there are certain cases to be made for Real Madrid. I don't know if they're the only team, but I know that they scored in every single match that they played this year. That's incredibly impressive. They did a domestic double. They won the league and Champions League. That's incredibly impressive. They won the Champions League 3 out of the last 4 years. That's incredibly impressive. What I go back to with your comment, Matt, is they've only won the Champions League. As crazy as that is to sound, a knockout tournament is sometimes, no, I'm not going to go that route. You know what, forget what I was going to say there. Where I go is Barcelona literally changed the way soccer was played over the last 10 years or so. So when tiki-taka came out, and in 2008 or so, 8 or 9, they changed and were so dominant that it forced all the other clubs to change how they thought about and how they played soccer. And they won, I believe, 3 Champions Leagues with that squad, at least 2, if not 3. And they were dominant in the league as well, whereas Real has only won 1 league title with this. I think Real has the potential under Zidane to go on, and if they win another 2 La Ligas over the next 3 years and win 1 more Champions League, I think you could make the case for that. I don't see that happening because I think their squad is getting a little bit older and is kind of moving out of their prime, whereas that Barcelona team was younger growing into their prime and really just so dominant. So that's where I stand. And again, this is just in my lifetime. I'm not comparing to the Netherlands teams back in the 70s that were, generation defining and all of that. I'm just talking about more kind of in our time. I don't feel like this team can legitimately compare to that Barcelona team.
Also, that Barcelona team was being raised as children and through that academy, and they were learning to play together in a specific way. Real Madrid, I mean, it is impressive what they've done, but I mean, they're just throwing money and they brought in world-class talent. They're kind of molding into they don't really have a set style. I feel like every time I watch them, they can play different, and that's impressive in itself.
Yeah, that's
but
what I was
I don't
say.
think they're defining the way that a generation of soccer. I don't think that's the way they are. I think people are going to remember this Barcelona team in 20 years more than they're going to remember the Real Madrid team. And that's because of what they did overall.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think the way Real Madrid have figured out how to counterattack and pretty much make that tiki-taka style, almost irrelevant now. Spain's nowhere near the same they were. I know it's because Xavi and Iniesta were so crucial to that, and those two not being there anymore for Spain and Barcelona is kind of crucial to their success. But I don't see Barcelona as being a dominant team in this era even.
So wait, what?
I don't no anymore. Like I don't see
Okay, got it.
Barcelona being this era. Sorry about that.
Dominant moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward.
Okay.
Barcelona is when they play teams, I don't think you're scared of them anymore. They're very inconsistent. They can lose games now.
Okay, so I agree with that. To Christian's point, I think it's almost more impressive, like you were alluding to, Christian, that Real didn't groom these players and they are so adaptable to different systems and have been integrated incredibly well. Credit to them and to Zidane for that. And so I give them almost a point over Barcelona because Barcelona literally raised the kids to play a certain. So that's where I stand on that point. Regarding Matt, the counter-attacking style, it's I don't want to say it's easy to play that style, but there are so many clubs that play that counter-attacking style that nobody could emulate what Barcelona was exactly doing when they were doing it to the effectiveness that they were. Whereas I could legitimately make a claim that on their day, Juventus could play that counter-attacking style and do it as effectively as Real Madrid. And even Borussia Dortmund or some of the high attacking teams can play that style. And so that's why I keep coming back to I can't justify them over that Barcelona team.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I did say that Barcelona team was, the only other team comparable.
Yeah. Okay, I know, but it's more fun to make this argument this way. All right. Lastly, let's turn to Zinedine Zidane, and he of course deserves a ton of praise for this victory. And I think we've discussed on previous podcasts how good he's been. I want to talk about Real Madrid's president, Florentino Perez. I should have wrote his name down. He said that Zidane could stay at Real Madrid for life if he wanted to. Christian, are you believing Perez in any way here?
We all know who this is, correct? The guy who fires and sells players at a whim, buys whoever he wants. This guy, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him. You really can't. And I think it's absolutely absurd of him to say. Yes, Zidane has won the Champions League back-to-back. He's the first coach ever to do it. And he was a club legend. He was an amazing player, probably top 10 ever. Top 5 midfielders, hands down, probably top 3. But to say he could stay forever, okay, say they come in 10th, they have some injuries, players have to leave, they get into financial trouble. No way he's staying. There's no way. And you cannot just say, oh, he can stay for life. He got caught up in the moment, the fact that they won, and he said something that, honestly, he might regret. And to be honest, I know Zidane has said in the past, when he first retired, he said, I don't really want to be a coach. I can't really see him being a successful coach at a lot of clubs. I just don't see him I feel like he's in the right situation right now. And I think he's kind of like Pep Guardiola. And I know I like Pep Guardiola, but he fit into that Barcelona system. I don't know I feel like they kind of are not going to be ideally successful everywhere. They need a specific set where they feel comfortable.
Okay. Matt, your thoughts?
So you compared the manager who just won the Champions League, the first manager ever to win Champions League back-to-back, saying he's not going to be successful, and then compared him to the most successful manager of our lifetime, saying how he's going to be like him. Because Pep Guardiola is the most successful manager trophies-wise since Fergie in such a short period of time. I mean, he's even surpassed that. He's even I wouldn't go as far as saying he's Wenger, but those two are, yeah. But those two are, coaches that are going to be talked about forever. Zidane's his football or soccer IQ is incredible. I think he can go anywhere and be successful. Real Madrid, had to fire their coach. They were last year.
Yeah,
they were struggling. Yeah, Benitez last year. He had to come into a situation where a coach was just fired, and do well. Conte did the same thing. They're just managers who can come into a system and implement what they want, and it worked immediately, and I think that's incredible. And same with Pep Guardiola when he went to Bayern. He didn't lose the league once. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Zidane, and I don't want to get ahead of myself or say, because Zidane still has a lot to prove before I consider him at the same level as Guardiola, but I think he is off to a more impressive start from my perspective, just because he's had to manage all kinds of egos. He came into a situation, again, mid-season where he didn't have preseason. He guided that team to the Champions League last year. This season, when he actually had a preseason, he was able to, get the team playing a certain way, get them prepared, win the league, win Champions League. And again, I think he's just been able to manage egos and manage the entire squad a lot better, whereas Pep a lot of times will alienate people. I haven't heard, outside of James Rodriguez, I haven't heard anyone on Real Madrid really feeling isolated or any of that, where Guardiola, has historically done that with a lot of different people. So
Alvaro Morata has come out and said that too, so I wouldn't say that.
Well, and that one Isco.
Isco too, yeah.
No, Isco. I'll give you the other two, but Isco, I disagree with.
Well,
He had a huge
year.
role.
No, this year I think he kind of accepted it, but last year, do you not remember all the talks of him leaving and not talking to Zidane and sitting on the bench? That did happen.
Yeah, and then what happened?
Yeah, I mean, but
he
I'm just saying,
dealt with it, and he managed the situation, and he got Isco playing some of his best soccer ever. And again, so I think he's off to more.
Did the same with Yaya
at Man City. He alienated and kicked him out of.
He actually did
Barca.
it. He did it at Barcelona too. He did it at both places.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to follow. I don't think Zidane will be there for his entire career, because Madrid, they could lose in. They could come in second next year and legitimately fire Zidane. That's how crazy things are there. But I think that would be a huge mistake, and I think Zidane will go on to have an incredibly successful career because, as I've said on previous podcasts, he can meld he can relate to stars, he can relate to youth players, he can get everybody working together, and I find that incredibly impressive. Okay. I think we're all championed out at this point, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in your ears in just a few seconds. Stay with us. How you guys doing? What's the face for?
I want to be in their ears.
You are in their ears. Get used to it. Yeah. So I always just say we'll take a break, and then I just roll into the next thing. I want to start actually giving you guys time if you need anything, or are you good to go?
I have so much to do. I'm so busy.
Yeah. Matt, how are you?
Things are well, Dave.
Good.
Thanks for asking.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Okay, we are back, and we actually had a decent Bros Talking Soccer fan futsal game this week. We played using MLS clubs, and my wife, Kristen, came through as our champion this week with 108 points. Christian, you were hot on her tails with 107 points, just behind. The rest of the pack was well behind. I came in fourth overall, second out of the three of us brothers with 61 points. Matt, you came in sixth overall, last of the brothers with 47 points. Christian, you want to talk us through your lineup and how things went?
Yeah, things were great. I'd like to congratulate Ward for coming back into the league. Stroke City making its first appearance in quite a while here, and
triumphant return.
Finishing top half, no big deal. So the way I went about picking my lineup this week is, I picked mostly home teams. That's the way I usually go about it. And I set in a 2-1-1-1-1-2 formation, two strikers. And it ended up paying a lot of dividends because FC Dallas ran the show with a 6-2 win up front for me. And 39 points there. Whew, killing it for me. And I picked Portland Timbers at home as well against San Jose. They put in 2 goals up front. That was not the worst result. Pretty good. I'll take it. LA Galaxy I had on defense. They tied 0-0 against DC United. That was the one away game I picked. And as someone who went to RFK recently and watched DC play, I had a lot of confidence they weren't going to score. And I had Orlando in goal as well, and they had 0-0. Only mistake is I probably could have switched Portland and Sporting KC. Got a couple more points, would have beat Kristen, but she had me this week, and I had you guys.
Yep. Yeah. So congrats on that. The Dallas call was a good one. So I came in second. I went with a 2-0-2 formation. So 2 defenders and 2 strikers, no midfielders. I know. So MLS, every single home team didn't lose this weekend, and that's generally the case. Home field advantage, for whatever reason, works really, really well in MLS. So quick tip for all you out there, skew a little bit more towards the home teams if you're picking MLS fan futsal games. I went with Dallas as my keeper, which was absolutely 100% my downfall. They gave up 2 goals, so I only got 6 fantasy points out of them, even though they scored 6 goals. So that was tough to swallow. I was out laying. I was getting my tan on following that game on my phone, and every time I checked, Dallas had scored another goal, and I was just getting sadder and sadder. But it's okay. So moving forward, I had Sporting Kansas City, good 3-0 victory on defense. Orlando, 0-0 shutout. Again, happy with those 2 results. Portland, a striker, they got 2 goals. Happy with that. And ultimately, I went with a homer pick with Philadelphia Union at New York City. Expected that game to be more of high scoring on that little league field that they have up there. It's tight, and I figured that there was going to be a lot of action. Didn't end up being the case, and that was another mistake that I made. But still came through with 61 points, finished ahead of Matt. So, Matt, you want to talk us through what happened with you?
Yeah, so most of the teams I wanted to pick this week, I had about 6 teams that I thought I really wanted, and they ended up playing each other for 3 of those games. So, I was not feeling comfortable at all. So I liked LA Galaxy and DC United. I wanted to pick both of those teams, but then I realized they're playing each other. Same with New York Red Bulls in Montreal and Chicago and Orlando. Those were the 6 that I really thought were going to do something this week. I didn't think DC was going to let up a goal or the Galaxy, but then I also didn't know who was going to win the game, so I just put them in midfield. Usually when I don't know how a game's going to go, I'll throw them in midfield.
Yeah, that's a decent strategy.
Yeah, so this week, just a lot of my games were just too close, and it just didn't work out in my favor.
That's okay. You'll try again, not this weekend, but the following weekend, because there are no fan football games.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to give a shout out. Ma, who's been killing it recently, had a rough week here. Yeah. I don't know what happened to her this week down in 8th place. And Dad, not far ahead of her in 7th. I got to step up their game. They're doing the Knittles wrong over there. And just a big shout out to Matt Peluso. I'm back, baby.
Yeah, I checked the stats on. I don't think Dad has ever finished in one of our Bros Talking Soccer games in the top half.
I don't think so either.
I think he's entered like 7 or 8 games, so he's got to step it up one of these times.
He's got to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And shout out new user Mel-er, Meler, for joining. So thanks for joining, and good luck next week when we come back. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. Fan futsal is off due to the international break. There's only 2 or 3 MLS matches this weekend, so not enough for a fan futsal game. But you should use this time to go watch some international soccer. We got some big World Cup qualifiers coming up for the U.S. that I'll definitely be tuned into, and I'm sure you guys will be as well. After that, we'll have an MLS game next weekend. In the meantime, go check out fanfutsal.com, visit our blog, check out our YouTube videos and all our other content. Also, we did just put out an ebook with the 7 most surprising soccer rules. So go to the blog, check that out, check our social media posts for that. It's cool, just fun, little interesting ebook. So hope you'll enjoy it. As always, you can look for us on the site, send us messages, talk some trash, all of that good stuff. My username is dknits11, Christian's is cknittle12, and Matt's is mpk8110. I'm going to take one more quick pause, and we'll be back soon after that with our last segment. Stick around. Big yawn. Big yawn.
What are we doing here? What's our last segment?
Last segment is Dutch Club on pay-per-win tickets and U20 squad rest.
Cool.
Good with that? Matt, you good to go?
Yep.
Welcome back, users, and getting right into our topics in segment 3 here. I wanted to talk about Dutch club Den Bosch. Dane Bosch, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they are instituting a pay-per-win season ticket price. They're in the second division in the Netherlands. Eerste Divisie, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but the second division in the Netherlands. And in this case, fans pay 10 euros more if the club wins, 5 euros more if they draw, and 0 euros more if they lose. And some context here that I think will help. So the season ticket costs 25 euros to get a season ticket package, and the club has set a cap at 160 euros, so they don't, it won't exceed 160 euros. I still don't know how they're going to enforce it with like additional payments and whatnot. But Christian, do you like this concept?
What on earth? 160 euros? That is so cheap.
Yeah. I mean, they're the second division. It's like a USL club.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. But I feel like they're still bigger than that. That's amazing. I kind of like this idea. I feel like it kind of doesn't hurt you if your team loses, and even if they win 10 euros, I feel like that's really not that much. And especially since they capped it at a certain amount, if your team keeps winning, okay, you paid 160 euros for your season tickets. It's not really damaging. I don't think that damaging to a lot of bank accounts. And if your team's not doing well, you're not paying more money, and you may have paid 25 euros for a season, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's a way to increase their attendance. I believe I was looking at the numbers. I think their stadium holds 9,000 or so, and they only had about 2,000 to 3,000 showing up on average. So this is a way that they're trying to get more people there. Matt, what do you think about the concept?
I think it's an awesome concept. It gives the fans, reason to pay more and also to pay less based on the season ticket. I don't know how competitive that league is, but I wonder if it's like the MLS and, anything can happen. You're never knowing like if you're going to get your value out of a season ticket package. Christian at the start of the year didn't look the Union too well with the the season tickets weren't going to go to the best use if they continue to lose. But they turned it around. So I don't know how competitive it is, but I like how if your team does better, you probably should pay more, and you're supporting the club to help them grow.
Yeah.
So,
Christian,
is this only for season? Yeah. Is there only tickets for season ticket holders, or not tickets? Is there only this like deal for season ticket holders, or is it if you buy a single game ticket, you owe 10 more euros for buying a ticket?
No, so that's where. So when I originally heard this concept, I was kind of skeptical and against it. And then as I did more research, I liked it more and more. So it is only for season tickets. So you have to have like a credit card on file. You will have, already bought your season ticket, so they know how to charge you more. And at least that's my assumption. But it's not for like a single game. You go, it costs 5, and then like as you're walking out, you can't leave until you pay another 10. It's not like that. But again, I kind of like I like the concept that it's really, really cheap to just put almost a deposit down or just like a sign up fee. And then, if they go and they win, if you attend a match and they win, it's like you spent 10 euros to attend that match. And, if they lose, it's like you had some fun and you enjoyed it, but really you didn't have to spend anything extra. And so I'm sure you'll buy concessions or whatnot as other means of making money for the club. But I actually really like this more and more that I think about it.
What do you guys think about something similar but kind of reverse? If your team loses, you get money back. I kind of like that more.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's sustainable. Yeah, I don't know if that's as sustainable. Although, who did that? I think Sunderland did that. Somebody did that.
Sunderland pay their away fans tickets sometimes, if they get blown out.
Yeah, and if they traveled far.
Yeah.
I think that's okay, but I wouldn't put it into general practice. I like this better than having cash actually leave the bank in your concept, whereas this would just be like you're just not getting more in.
Additional revenue, yeah.
Yeah. Matt, what about you? What do you think of Christian's concept?
Makes sense.
I mean, I don't think you should get rid of the money you already have, but I mean, yeah, it's a solid concept. It's pretty much the similar, maybe charge a little bit extra with Christians. So then you're not losing. It's probably the same value in that way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I'd rather it this way because, again, I think you're leaving the fans, even though it may end up you're getting the same amount of money and exchanging and losing the same amount of money in either situation. I think it's easier for fans and consumers to conceptualize, hey, I'm getting a deal or getting value out of it rather than having to shell the money up front and then in the future getting that money back. So that would be kind of my perspective on it. So I think it may be revolutionary and may be interesting to see if other clubs adopt that model. So good on them for trying it out. Let's close with our last topic here, which is related to the U20 World Cup. So the US U20 squad was knocked out of the quarterfinals of the U20 World Cup by Venezuela. Venezuela absolutely dominated them and deserved the win. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I do want to say that the US was on 2 days less rest than Venezuela. Venezuela had 4 days rest and the US only had about 2 days rest. That's where I wanted to take this conversation. So, Matt, in a high-level international tournament like this, is it fair to have 2 full days rest discrepancy between the two teams?
I think it is fair. I don't know if it's fair, but it's what's expected. Once you reach higher levels, I guess you're kind of supposed to be in better shape. You kind of deal with adversity differently, and you kind of just have to deal with it sometimes. The English schedule, which we've talked about a lot of times, they have to go games where 2 days rest till the next game for like an important cup match, and then they have an important league match right after that. So I think it's something you kind of deal with, and there's something you can do about it.
Well, but in an international tournament, you can schedule. So in an international tournament, you set the schedule well in advance. In the example that you're talking about with leagues and cups and all of that, you're trying to fit all these different things that are constantly changing into a time period that you have less control over. Whereas an international tournament, you have plenty of time to plan ahead. That's my perspective. Sorry, you were going to say about the NBA? Yeah,
well, I was saying, like, if you win, then I realized that it already is scheduled. But yeah, but like teams, if you sweep a team, and then another team goes 7 games, it's just going to be so much different rests, and it's just something you kind of deal with.
Yeah, but that's different because
I put that together after you said your point.
Yeah,
Christian, what were your thoughts on just this concept of differing rests?
I think it's not very fair. I think we see it in the World Cup, the regular World Cup. We see it in Euros. We see it in the Gold Cup. We see it all over in these international tournaments. And not just in international tournaments. We see it in MLS. Teams have played 13 games. Some teams have played 10 games. What on earth is going on there? I'll keep coming back to that. People keep on listening because you'll hear me talk about that 100 times. Yeah, I just think it's ridiculous that teams can come up. It's different if it's 6 versus 7 days. When it's 3 versus 5 days, that is a big difference of rest. 2 versus 4, I think that's what it was, correct?
Yeah.
2 versus 4.
Yep.
4 days rest is a lot, actually, in soccer. Your body really does heal itself, and in 2 days, it really can't. You can't get a full training session the next day, and you really have to come into that game pretty much already exhausted and have to play against a team that is well prepared. They've had rest, they've been able to train, and they're ready to go. It's really not fair.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me. So the biggest thing for me isn't necessarily the discrepancy in days rest. So, the 2 days rest between the two clubs. It's more that the US only had 2 days. Like at high level soccer, like you just physically can't recover that quickly. And so even if it was 3 and 5, I think there would have been a bigger difference. I mean, preferably 4, at least 4 would be great. But even if it was 3 and 5, I think you could have justified it a little bit more because players can recover within 3 days. But I think the 2, I mean, you see it, Matt, bringing up your example with the English Premier League, when there is just, Liverpool had 46 hours in between. between games, and they had to rotate a ton, and they were very, very concerned about player injuries and all of that. And so when you only have 2 days rest, you really do have to manage your lineup, and those squads have, you have up to 30 plus players, on your team when you include academy kids and all of that in your domestic league. But in the international tournament, you only have 23, and you're already stretched kind of thin. And so I think it's unreasonable to only give them 2 days rest. Okay. Christian, anything else you wanted to mention about that or any other topic?
I really don't think so. Not today.
Okay. Matt, what about you? Anything else you wanted to mention?
Nope.
Okay, I wanted to give a quick shout out right before we started podcasting. I saw on Reddit that David Beckham finally got approval to acquire the last piece of land or whatever he needed in Miami to actually build a soccer stadium. So that is the prerequisite to him getting a franchise down there. What are your thoughts, Christian, on, do you think Miami's going to be a good market for soccer?
I think it will be, yeah. I think they kind of love their football down there, and they love basketball, obviously. The Heat were great for a couple of years. I don't think they're as good this year. And they haven't been for a couple of years. I don't really know. I don't follow the NBA. But
yeah,
but I know
there's
a sports market down there, and I know there's a lot of South Americans down in that area too who love soccer, and they probably would love to have that.
Matt, what about you? Think it's going to be a good idea?
Yeah, so what you're saying about the Florida fans or the Miami fans, I think they're one of the worst markets, but for soccer, I think it might be actually a very good one. I have a friend that goes to the University of Miami, and I think he was telling me how the interest in soccer in the city actually is present, whereas basketball games, the second LeBron James left and they still had 2 other All-Stars on the team, their tickets were like $6, or like they were just giving away tickets to people because nobody wants to go to Miami games anymore. And, the Marlins for baseball, that's just been disaster. So.
Yeah. I started watching Ballers on HBO, which is set in Miami. And if Miami's anything like what's going on there's plenty of other extracurricular activities for people to get into. And I think a lot of times that's what the stigma is, or that's what the rep that Miami fans get, that they can go to the beach or go to the club and all of that. But like you said, I think that there are a lot of South Americans there. It is a big soccer market. I know it does very, very well on TV ratings for international matches. I just hope that they support a local team. And I think it's really awesome that the stadium is going to be downtown, because I know that that's so important. We see it with, the Union Stadium being in Chester, and it's tough a lot of times to get fans there. And if we could take public transport there, it'd be awesome, but we can't. And so that's my last little gripe there. So I think this is going to be good for Miami. Christian, off to you to recap our trivia question. Matt and I will give our answers.
All right, guys, you ready for this? Everybody, listeners, you ready? All right, let's go. So my question was, of all, I guess, what is it? What are we at? 25 Premier League seasons now? How many different countries have been represented by players in the league?
Maybe 24.
Do you guys know how many countries that are in the world? Do you guys need that?
Are you counting United Nations or FIFA? Because there's a difference. It's like United Nations, it's like 194, and FIFA, it's like 211 or something like that.
All right. Yeah, I was counting regular, regular, not FIFA.
Okay. So the 190 or so.
Yeah, it's 195. But if it says 195, but if you count Taiwan, which apparently U.S. does not, it's 196.
Okay. All right. So of that, how many have played in the Premier League? Okay. Matt, do you want to give your guess?
Wait, played or scored?
Played.
Oh, just played? Oh. I'm going to go with 100. I'm going to oversell it, yeah.
100? Just even?
No, 108.
He said 108.
Oh, 108. Okay. Okay. I was going to go with 63.
Okay. You're a little bit off. That was close.
Really?
Yeah. I actually was looking up goal scorers to try and find out that answer. So it's funny that Matt thought that was what I asked. But yeah, it is 106.
Oh my
FIFA,
Good
FIFA
guess,
affiliated
Matt.
nations have played.
Have played in the Premier League
Yes.
just in the last 24, 25 years.
Do you want me to read off the list of all of them?
No, that's okay. But wow, I did not expect that there were that many. Okay. So that was a good trivia question. All right, listeners, hopefully you got that one right. All right,
I'm here for you guys.
Yeah, we will put links to all the stories we talked about in our show notes, and we'll also tweet them out from our Bros Talking Soccer Twitter handle, which is at BT Soccer Pod. If you want to get in contact with us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com, and everything was brought to you by Fan Futsal. Go check that out, look at our content, and play our MLS game for next week. Christian and Matt, thanks for being here, and thank you all the listeners for tuning in this week. We'll talk to you again next week. See you, everyone. Bye.